The moment Susanna stepped into my house, I felt something was off. She glanced around with a frown, her pink hair flipping over her shoulder as she scanned the space with clear disapproval. "This place is smaller than I thought," she said flatly. My heart sank. I had imagined a different future, a peaceful one where we could live together as a family after my husband's passing. But the way she wrinkled her nose at my home made me feel like I was just an obstacle in her way. Clayton, my son, followed behind her but remained silent. I clung to the hope that things would get better with time. I had no idea they would only get worse. The first few days passed, and I began to notice something strange. Susanna did nothing, no cooking, no cleaning, not even a polite good morning. She floated around like a guest in a hotel, expecting everything to be done for her. One evening, Clayton approached me hesitantly. "Mom, can you do our laundry?" Susanna isn't used to chores. I forced a smile and nodded, convincing myself that she just needed time to adjust. But as days turned into weeks, it became painfully clear she had no intention of lifting a finger. Instead, she lounged around, scrolling through her phone while I worked tirelessly to keep the house in order. One morning, I woke up early to prepare breakfast. As I entered the kitchen, my stomach dropped. Dirty dishes were stacked high in the sink. The living room was a disaster. Food wrappers, shopping bags, and discarded clothes scattered everywhere. "Good morning," I greeted, forcing a polite tone. Susanna barely looked up from her phone. "Oh, can you clean that up? I was too tired last night." I stared at her, my hands tightening into fists. I wasn't her maid. I turned to Clayton, hoping for support, but he simply shrugged. "Mom, don't stress. You love cleaning anyway." That was the moment I realized I was completely alone in this. Soon, money became a problem. Clayton had promised to help with expenses, but 2 months passed, and I didn't see a single dollar from him. One night, I confronted him. "Clayton, we need to talk." "About what?" he asked, yawning. "The bills, the groceries, everything. I can't pay for all 3 of us alone." He sighed. "I forgot. I'll send some money next month." But the next month came, and still nothing. Instead, Susanna continued coming home with new, expensive clothes. Where was the money coming from? Something wasn't right. A feeling of dread settled in my chest. One afternoon, I checked my bank account. My heart nearly stopped. Money was missing, more than I had spent. I had always been careful with my finances. I knew something was wrong. That night, I confronted Clayton directly. "Did you take money from my account?" He hesitated, then let out a short laugh. "Mom, you don't go out much. You don't need that money." Susanna smirked beside him. "Yeah, you just sit at home. Relax." My hands clenched. They weren't just using me, they were stealing from me. And they didn't even care. I knew then that I had to fight back. But I needed to be smart. If I kicked them out too soon, they might cause trouble. I had to have a plan. That's when I remembered Rachel, my manager at the flower shop. "Mary, you're so good with crafts," she had said once. "Have you thought about selling handmade jewelry?" At the time, I had laughed it off. But now, it seemed like my way out. Late at night, while Clayton and Susanna slept, I worked in silence, creating jewelry with careful hands. Each piece I crafted felt like a small step toward freedom. Word spread quickly. Orders started coming in, and soon, I was making real money, more than I had imagined. But I kept my success a secret. I let them believe I was still weak, still dependent on them. Meanwhile, I used my earnings for something important, my escape. After months of hard work, I signed the papers for a new house. My fingers trembled with excitement as I held the keys. This wasn't just a house. This was my fresh start. And when the time was right, I would finally teach them a lesson. One morning, I turned to them with a casual smile. "Clayton, Susanna, let's go see a new place." They eagerly followed, thinking I was doing something for them. They had no idea what was coming. I had bought the house for all of us, or at least that's what they had assumed. When we arrived, their eyes widened in shock and delight. "This place is amazing." Susanna gasped, spinning around to take it all in. "It's so big," Clayton added, running his fingers along the elegant staircase. I stood quietly, watching them explore the rooms, their excitement growing with every step. They thought they were moving in, thought this was their fresh start. I let them dream for a little while longer, savoring the moment before their illusion shattered. Susanna bolted toward the largest bedroom, throwing open the door with a triumphant grin. "I'll take this one," she announced, already picturing herself settling in. Clayton, not to be left behind, picked another room, nodding in approval. I remained in the doorway, arms crossed, watching them with quiet satisfaction. Then, in a calm, steady voice, I finally spoke. You're not living here. The air in the room shifted instantly. Silence fell, thick and heavy. Susanna turned to me, confusion clouding her expression.
What?
I repeated myself, slower this time.
This house is mine.
I bought it for myself. You two aren't welcome here. Their smiles disappeared in an instant, replaced by disbelief and, for the first time, panic. They had never considered this possibility, never expected to be on the outside looking in. Clayton's brow furrowed.
What do you mean? You never told us that.
I met his gaze, my voice unwavering. I never said you were moving in. You just assumed. Susanna's mouth opened and closed, searching for a response but finding none. Finally, she managed, but where will we go?
I shrugged. That's your problem.
Clayton's confidence cracked.
Mom, come on.
Don't be like this. I smiled coldly. Like you were when you stole from me. His face paled. He knew he had no defense. Susanna crossed her arms, her voice sharp with disbelief. How could you even afford this place? I had been waiting for that question.
Oh, you wouldn't know, would you?
I said, tilting my head. You never work. Then, with slow satisfaction, I revealed the truth. I started my own business. I made jewelry, sold it online. While you wasted money, I built a future for myself. Susanna's eyes widened, her mouth slightly agape. That's not possible. I pulled out my phone and showed her my online store. See for yourself. She stared at the screen, her face turning pale as reality sank in.
She had lost.
Clayton's voice softened, desperate now.
Mom, we made mistakes.
But we're family. You can't just leave us with nothing. I tilted my head, feigning thoughtfulness. You left me with nothing first, Clayton. You stole from me. You let Susanna treat me like a servant. He lowered his head, unable to argue. The boy I had raised, the son I had once loved, was gone. The man standing before me was a stranger. And strangers did not belong in my home. They both began to beg. Please, Mary, Susanna whined. We have nowhere to go. I sighed, pretending to consider it, then smiled. Well, Susanna, maybe it's time you learned what a real job is. Her face burned with embarrassment. Clayton exhaled sharply, his shoulders slumping. He finally understood, it was over. They had taken advantage of me for too long, and now, the moment I had dreamed of had arrived. The moment they realized they had lost everything. Reaching into my bag, I pulled out a small envelope and handed it to Clayton. Here. This is enough for a motel for a few nights. After that, figure it out yourselves. His hands clenched around the money. He wanted to argue, wanted to fight, but he knew it was useless. I saw the anger in his eyes. He had thought he was in control. He had underestimated me. As they turned and walked away, I felt something lift off my shoulders, a weight I hadn't realized had been crushing me for so long. Their presence, their selfishness, their entitlement, it was all finally gone. I stepped inside and locked the door behind me, standing still for a moment.
Silence. Peace. Freedom.
I ran my fingers over the walls of my new home, letting the reality sink in.
It was mine. No more stolen money. No more insults.
Just me, my business, and the life I had built with my own hands. Walking outside, I wandered into the garden, the scent of fresh flowers filling the air. I reached out, touching the petals gently. For the first time in years, I felt truly happy.
I had won. A week later, my phone buzzed. A message from Clayton.
We lost everything.
Can we talk?
I stared at the screen for a moment, my heart steady, my hands still. Then, without hesitation, I deleted the message. They had made their choices. Now, they had to live with them. Sipping my tea, I leaned back in my chair, gazing out at my beautiful garden. I felt nothing but satisfaction.